Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor, hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. I thought both hires were curious in a couple of different ways. We'll start with the Atlanta Falcons hiring of Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is a very, very well-respected coach in the National Football League, a defensive-minded coach, which is very rare for teams to hire this day and age. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the Rams defensive coordinator. They've been good under Sean McVay. That has been a stable organization, a championship-level organization, to get a job as a head coach. That makes a lot of sense. It's odd to me that the Atlanta Falcons are hiring a coach who was the interim there so recently. Raheem Morris was the interim head coach in Atlanta just 4 years ago. And they went 4-7. And look, I'm not going to necessarily hold someone's interim head coach record against them. That's obviously a very adverse situation. I think you can only really help yourself in that case in an interim situation. The plug's been pulled on the season, essentially, when you're asked to do this. But he was in the building and had worked there, and they decided to go in a different direction. And for some reason or another, they've decided to circle back with the same ownership. It'd be another thing if there was a completely different infrastructure there in Atlanta. And there are changes in football, and they've obviously brought a lot of Saints personnel in to do that. But it just seems a little odd to me that you had your chance to make him your guy 4 years ago and decided not to. And look, Raheem Morris was a head coach in Tampa a long time ago. He was the head coach there in 2009, 10, and 11, and they did not have success. They were 17-31, and I have no doubt that 13 years removed from that, Raheem Morris has a little better handle on how to run an organization. So I'm not here to proclaim a grand slam hire, a total swing and a miss, to poke fun at the Falcons or anoint them the next power in the NFC South. That's not really the point, because I don't know, and neither do you. But I just found it a little odd that that's the guy they circled back around to. And clearly it was an interesting search, being with the fact that the reports are that Bill Belichick spoke with Atlanta on multiple occasions. The other hire in the NFC South was Dave Canales. And Dave Canales has been hired by the Carolina Panthers to be their head coach. I don't know anything about Dave Canales in terms of his play calling ability, in terms of his quarterback development, in terms of how he is running a football operation. I don't know. He's never been a head coach. I thought that Baker Mayfield played well last year, and with Dave Canales calling the plays, makes sense that he did a good job and was elevated. What I find a little curious is that Dave Canales worked for the Seattle Seahawks from 2010 through 2022. He was there for 12 years. You know who had an opening at head coach this year? The Seattle Seahawks did. They weren't chomping at the bit to get him back. Again, that doesn't mean anything. But no one knows Dave Canales better than Seattle. And if they thought they had a gem, I think there's a good chance he could have ended up there. Now, what I'll say about Carolina hiring coach, whether it's Dave Canales or Bill Belichick or they dug up Vince Lombardi, whatever. That organization is set up to fail right now based on the ownership. Because he, by all accounts, is a disaster. Do I want him managing my money? Absolutely. I don't have very much, but Mr. Tepper, here you go. Make it work. Make me rich. Do I want him running a football program based on what we've seen the last 2 years? Absolutely not. Heavy-handed, too involved, reactionary, impulsive, impatient, all the worst qualities you can be in an owner. He seems to have them in spades. That's a positive for you New Orleans Saints fans. You got somebody that can't get out of their own way. That's a good thing. And it appears that's the case there. And perhaps because of that reputation, which is not just me saying it, I'm just Joe talk show down here in Baton Rouge who's spending a lot of his time talking about LSU's baseball team. This is a league-wide reputation. This is respected people both in the sport and in the journalism world who were saying this Tepper guy is doing some funny stuff. And when you're consistently firing coaches halfway through a season and you're dictating who the team needs to draft, it's just a toxic situation. And I don't know that any coach is going to come in there and rectify that until David Tepper figures this out. Maybe he never does. Daniel Snyder never did. Same kind of thing. Got rich, bought a toy, wants too much to do with the toy won't work. How often do y'all hear about the Ravens owner? How often do you hear about who's running things in San Francisco? I don't. You write the checks, you create the work environment, you hire the executive staff, you put them in place, you go do your thing. I don't think that's the case in Carolina. I think there's a rich lunatic running around treating it like a game of Madden instead of running a business. So the point of this segment is not to grade the hires of the NFC South. Just kind of evaluate what they are. I'm personally kind of infatuated with the new, fun, offensive guys. Personal preference. I think those guys are winning a lot of games. John Harbaugh's not in that group, and he wins a ton of games too as a special teams coach. He wouldn't apply to any of this. But I like Kyle Shanahan and what he's doing and the people that have worked for him, and obviously McVay as well. And I think the bigger story probably in the NFC South when you're talking about coaching hires is the Saints are, while they're not running in the same waters as these teams for a head coach, they are swimming in these waters as far as an offensive coordinator goes. And it appears that those waters have gotten a little crowded because Tampa may be looking around at some of the same names that the Saints are. We'll see what happens. But you always, when you're evaluating what you're doing from a hiring perspective, who's also in the hiring market? We talk about that all the time. And there are a lot of folks in the market for offensive coordinators because all these offensive coordinators are being elevated to head coaches, and there's a lot of vacancies in the offensive coordinator world. We've seen some of the Saints' potential targets take jobs. Pitcher staying in Cincinnati. Brian Johnson is someone the Saints have talked to. He spent the day with Cleveland yesterday. He'll meet with the Buccaneers next, and then he'll meet with the Saints as well. You're in the waters with these teams. And while there's no rush from a perspective of getting things set up for next football season, there is a bit of urgency when you consider other teams in the hiring pool. And the Saints are very much in that, and we'll see how this thing shakes out. It's very interesting, and right now, I'd rather be talking to you about the Saints in the NFC Championship game. We're not. We're talking about who can come in and give a shot of life to this offense. Maybe we get our answer over the weekend. Maybe it bleeds into next month like Luke Johnson told us yesterday. We'll just have to see, but you understand that there are two new head coaches in the NFC South. I don't know that either one terrifies me as someone interested in the Saints, but you never quite know how these things will shake out. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.